I've been blessed or privileged to work with a lot of different recruiters from a lot of different companies, big, small, growing, not so growing. And there's one thing that they all seem to have in common. It is a growing fear, maybe not quite so growing, maybe kind of Godzilla like in their mind, that they are being seen as nothing more than an order taker. That phrase alone, order taker, sends shivers through most recruiters' backs, right? They go, oh gosh, it's pain, it's fear, it's ugly, it's messy, and they are doing everything they can to be seen as an order taker. Not all of them, mind you, but easily the majority, if not the super majority. So many recruiters are going about their day to day reinforcing the idea that they are order takers and nothing more. Then they go home or they go get a drink or they go hang out with their friends or their recruiter friends and they complain, why do people still treat me like an order taker? Well, today, on this third video about the 4 transformations, we're going to talk about that transformation from order taker to consultant because, well, spoiler alert, you are a consultant. As a recruiter, that's exactly what you are. If you're a TA leader, you are not managing recruiters. You are leading a team of consultants, of talent experts, but you don't do that by doing what you've done before. This is a transformation. This transformation is not as easy as flipping a switch. None of these transformations are. This takes time. It takes work. It takes effort. And it takes the will on your part and your entire team's part, because when you work together, this gets better, to make the transformation real. The job you save may be your own. I'm going to start before we get too far into this about how much I respect and adore the work recruiters are tasked to do, the things they're expected to achieve, the workloads, the crushing workloads on their back. So everything I'm about to say here is not about you suck and you should do it better, so much as it is really, look, what got you here won't get you there, right? And that transformation, that change is not always obvious. It's not always easy. But the truth is, I trust that when you get more than 4.5 seconds back in your day, and you can actually stop and think a little bit, because right now you're running in 17 different directions. Thought is a luxury. You understand that what you're doing is actually not serving you. It looks like effort. It looks like you're doing the hard work, but it's not actually serving you long term. And that's where I want you to get. Because I know that you are an expert, a talent expert. You have expertise in a thing that no one outside the talent industry has. Your hiring managers may know way more about engineering and coding and nursing and biochemistry and what have you, way more than you will ever know. They don't know what you know. That is, the market looks like, what people are expecting, what other companies are offering, how your offer looks in position relative to other companies. What might be you could say to a candidate to make them say, ooh, I don't want to work for that big company. I want to work for this smaller, more interesting company. That is expertise. That is a skill. If you were in sales, they would pay you a lot of money for those sorts of skills, but you're in recruiting. So adjust your expectations accordingly. So that fear about being seen as an order taker, it's real, not just in your head, not just in your soul, not just in your scared, whatever part of your body gets scared. It is the raw truth, because over the last couple of years, actually over the last couple of decades, business in general has been moving towards a world in which you are just an order taker because that's all they think you can do. That's all the value they think you can bring. And that's on us. That's on recruiters, recruiting leaders, employer branders, HR, all the parts have a role to play here. So if we're going to make this transformation work, we got to see the whole board. We got to see the whole picture and figure out how we can make that change happen. So let's start at let's call it a blunt place. Over the last, well, honestly, since the internet, if not before, technology, process, expectations have slowly been pushing recruiting and recruiters into a box. And that box keeps getting smaller. We say your job, we said, okay, once a long time ago, your job is to go through all the resumes and applications and pick the best ones to talk to. And we said, oh, we have technology. We'll make it really easy to write those ads. We'll make it really easy to post those ads everywhere. We'll make it really easy to collect those applications, and we'll make it really easy to stack rank them. And you kind of start to wonder, what the heck is your job at all? And that is an appropriate response, because technology seems to be kind of polishing off the stuff that we do and leaving only the stuff that it hasn't figured out how to automate yet. In the end, recruiters have been pushed into this world where recruiting is a process, and our job is to, in a bot-like manner, process the material, process the candidates. And that leaves so much value that you bring on the table. You need to be picking that up. It's not that AI is going to take our job. It's that we've spent the last 20 years putting ourselves in a box where they can take our jobs so easily. And I don't want that to happen because I know, as we've said before, you are driving growth to this company. You are the one helping hire and select the right people who are going to grow this company. AI is not something that can do that, nor should it. That is something that takes a trained eye. It takes experience. It takes thought process. It takes a recruiter. And that's what we want to do is we want to show the company your value, because if we don't, it's kind of like a meteor heading towards the earth. We can see it, and we can see it's getting a little closer, and we know once it hits, it's bad news for all of us, but there is still stuff we can do. And there's things we can change to make sure that meteor never touches us. So let's talk about this idea of being an order taker. An order taker, applying some definitions. The order taker is the person who simply does what they are told. What kind of person are you looking for, hiring manager? What experience should they have? What job title should I be searching for? How many years experience? What schools should they have gone to? What skills, what tools should they, have used in the past? We are just writing down what the hiring manager says that we should be looking for, and off we go. Am I painting with a broad brush? You wouldn't believe. It's huge. It's absolutely huge. And I being unfair. But am I? Look, I've seen a lot of different ways intake is done. And by the way, spoiler, first step to changing your position as an order taker, stop calling it an intake. Call it a talent strategy meeting. Okay. Just do it, right? If you call it an intake, that's what a waiter or waitress does. They do intake. They take your order. Well, you don't want to be an order taker, so change the name of the meeting. Is it stupid? Yes. Is it small? Absolutely. Will it help support your change? Yes. And that's what we want. Going to be a lot of small changes, a couple of big changes, but that's how you change the system. That's how you change people's perceptions of you. Okay, so we're back to the intake meeting, or what we're calling the talent strategy meeting, right? You can walk into these meetings, and you probably have a list of questions, your intake questions. And you ask the questions, you collect the answers, and away you go. Again, the familiarities, the similarities to how waiters and waitresses act, clear as day. We're almost projecting that we're order takers when we're doing this sort of thing. But what can we be doing differently? So this is where a change in perspective and then a change in technology, or at least the processes and the things we use, really starts to kind of come into its own. It really allows us to change people's perceptions of us. And this is what I would recommend. First off, rather than let you, the individual recruiter, take on this challenge all by yourself, which is a humongous task. It's Herculean. And I don't think you should have to bear that alone if you don't have to. And if you've got other recruiters around you, you don't have to. First step in all of this, go get all your recruiters together. If you're the talent acquisition leader, perfect. Call the meeting, bring in lunch, get some pizza. Come on, make it a thing. And together as a group, you're going to use the wisdom of crowds to create the perfect intake form, the perfect way of collecting all the possible information you need to get the job done, to get the hire done. Now, here's the thing. Once you've collected all the questions, I'm going to recommend a few other questions. Let's call them push questions, because they're not I want to know this information questions, which is what most intake form questions are. You're actually looking to hear what you need to know so you can go ahead and do your job. No, these are questions that say, hey, we're at this position because you, Ms. or Mr. Hiring Manager, need to fill a role. And you don't need to fill a role for fun. No one thinks that's fun. You need to do it to achieve a business goal. And chances are it's a business goal that will have dramatic impact on your ability to say that you've done your job, or to get your bonus, or to hit quarterly numbers, or whatever metric you're using. That means this is what I refer to as the point of maximum leverage that the recruiter has over the hiring manager. Why we are being seen as order takers at this stage boggles my mind, because this is the point where they have a desperate need to help hiring somebody so they can do what they need to do. And here we are saying we can make that happen, right? It's like saying you got a flat tire in the middle of nowhere and a tow truck pulls up and it happens to have a tire, your exact tire in its back, inflated, ready to go. How much is that tow truck driver going to charge you? Like 10x what that tire would normally cost? This is the point where they have maximum leverage over you. Now, we're not going to be jerks like that. We're not jerks. We're just not. What we're going to do is leverage this moment to get more out of them so that we can actually help them. So here are some questions I would add to your intake form that I call push questions. The first one is, okay, once this job is live and on job boards, are you going to commit to posting twice on LinkedIn about this job? Yes or no? What? It's a whole different kind of question, isn't it? It's a whole different situation. Suddenly you're not saying, what do you want? What do you want? Do you want fries with that? What you're saying is, we are peers in this relationship. You want something, I want something. And together, if we both get what we want, that's a win. So if I'm getting you what you want, can you give me what I want? Because what I want is to help you. Other questions might be, would you be willing to record a 30 or 60-second video on your phone and post it to LinkedIn about what this job is like? Or at the very least, would you be willing to commit to having one of your staff record that video that we can post to LinkedIn or maybe use for outreach? Yes or no? This is what we do. We're taking leverage. Anything that you would want a hiring manager to commit to, this is the point to get them to commit to it. You want them to commit to getting interview feedback within 24 hours? Make them commit to it here. Now, again, what we're trying to do is elevate you from order taker to peer. That is what a consultant is. You're a peer. You're not better than them. You are two experts coming together to solve a problem. And that's where I want to position you. That means you don't beg for help. You don't ask, if you have time, would you mind doing this thing? No, you're not Oliver. This isn't a Dickens play. Give me a break. What this is about is, I'm trying to help you. This is what you need to do. Great. That's what I need to do. That is what I will do. And now I've revolted to hand puppets. Where is my mind? What has happened here? Anyway, anything you want them to commit to, that is when you ask. Because when you ask them to commit to it and they say they will commit to it, one, got it in writing. They said they would do it. Two, by saying it out loud, by committing to it out loud, they are inherently more inclined to agree and to do the thing, to actually do what they said they would do. We all know hiring managers who say, oh yeah, sure, I'll do whatever you want. And then when you need them, they're gone, right? You can ask them, and I know this makes recruiters nuts. You can ask them, if I book interviews on this week, can you commit to blocking off 8 hours over that week for those interviews? No more jetting off to wherever they're going to jet off. No more taking a vacation. No more deciding the day before the interview, I decided to take a long weekend. Can you reschedule that interview? Oh, no, no. They've committed to making time for this critical effort. This is when you use that. Simply by asking these push questions, you have changed their perception. Imagine you're at a restaurant and you're having your order taken. The waiter says, do you want fries with that? That is the order taker model. The waiter or waitress does not say, do you commit to leaving me a 5-star review? If you did, they wouldn't be an order take anymore. Suddenly they're peers. That's what we're trying to do here. Again, not being a jerk here. We're doing this not to serve us, to serve them, right? The better we get the information we need and we get the commitments we need, the better hire we can make for them. Now, I started with this first step because it's pretty easy to see. It's pretty clear that intake meeting is such a great microcosm of how we enter these relationships with our hiring manager and what we can do to change that relationship at this stage. What we're going to do is rethink that writ large across every touch point we have across the entire candidate and hiring manager journey. What we're trying to do is be seen as consultants. And maybe you don't have a lot of experience working side by side with consultants. To be fair, many of you, if not most of you, have not had a lot of experience or interactions with a consultant. You might have a picture of what a consultant from a movie might be like, three-piece suit, super sharp, super, terse and direct and knows all the answers and, straight shooter guy, always a guy, right? What's up with that? No, that's not what we're talking about. A consultant is someone who comes in, brings in their own expertise to solve problems. That is all a consultant does. Whether they're from some big name company like McKinsey or they're an individual person, they have expertise and they're applying that expertise on behalf of the client. They're there to serve the client. They're not there to take the orders. They're there to help the client see possibilities, to see opportunities, to take advantage of those opportunities, to understand the trade-offs that come with those opportunities so that the client can make the best decision possible. That is where you need to be. You need to be the person unfazed by having to push back on incorrect expectations or incorrect assumptions on the talent market. Remember, you are the expert. You know better than they do. So if they say, well, it should be pretty easy, we should probably get some candidates pretty quickly. Will we? Are you sure? I mean, you know the reputation of your company in the market. You know how many people have applied for the last couple of jobs. You are the one in the ATS and know, are we getting good candidates or are we getting dreck? You have actual knowledge that they do not, which means it is on you. It is your job to push back. Now, you don't push back by saying you're wrong. Recruiters or consultants don't actually do that. They don't say you're wrong too often. What they very often is reframe. They help change people's perceptions. They might say, actually, having looked at the last 5 roles, what we're seeing is X and Y and Z. You're bringing factual evidence to bear on the problem. You're not saying I disagree. You're saying, here's data that you don't have. This might change your point of view. You might want to reframe it and say, you know what? If we think beyond what you're looking for, what else could we be doing to make this work? How can we think bigger? Very often, the order taker trap is all about saying, here's the box, everyone stays in the box. And that includes the hiring manager. They have their role in this. They want, you deliver. End of conversation. What if we reframe it to say, instead of saying, how quickly can I put a body in that seat? What if we brought someone who had more skills, who had different skill sets? What would the perfect candidate look like? How do I help you envision the person who would help your team and the company grow? Now, I guarantee most hiring managers have not heard a recruiter say stuff like that before. And I hate that for us. We need hiring managers to understand that we are thinking about the business just as much as they are. That we understand that the people we bring in are growing the business. That the people we bring in might be solving a short-term problem on the hiring manager's part, but that might change the culture. It might change what the company's all about. It might not vibe with the rest of the team or the rest of the function or the rest of the company. We can bring in the plumber who solves the problem and fixes the pipe, but they're going to stick around long after that pipe is fixed. How is that going to impact? Is that someone we can leverage again? Is that someone who brings in other skills beyond that? That is your experience. That is your expertise that you need to bring to bear. So, as a consultant, you need to not be willing to be seen as an order taker. And I would love if you took a moment to write down all the things you've heard in the last week or month that suggest you're an order taker. Just personal journal it. Don't show anybody. You don't have to do that. But just see how often small language choices by leadership, by the business, by hiring managers suggest that all you are is an order taker and that's all they'll treat you as. Just write down the language so that you can see it later. So you can go, I see what's happening. I'm being pushed into the order taker trap. And at that point, you start to bring out your pushback, your reframes. Actually, let me give you some data that may help you see a different perspective. That's a really nice way of saying you're full of crap and I don't think you know what you're talking about. I mean, you could say that too, but don't. Actually, don't. Just pretend I didn't say that. So let's get into another example, another microcosm of when the order taker mentality may dictate how we interact with the hiring manager. Usually it starts off with maybe even before the intake or maybe it's during the intake, it's a little story. It's a little one-act play that happens over and over and over again. And that play sounds like this. The hiring manager says, you know what? I know hiring is easy. I get all these podcast ads saying how easy it is to hire. So just go ahead and bring me some bodies. Thank you. That is the end of this play. Really simple play. One act play, very, very short. But in it is a world. It is a world, I guess. In fact, I'm going to bet you've lived in before because it assumes so much. It assumes that your job is easy. And a wise person once told me, you only talk about easy in terms of other people's jobs. You never talk about how easy your job is. You always talk about, that's easy. That's not fair. Not even remotely fair on any level. So if they suggest that things are easy, they're being unfair. But again, they simply don't have the expertise that you do, and that's what we're going to change. So what would an order taker say? Well, an order taker might not say anything. They might just simply accept that as a stated fact and say, well, I'm not going to change this person's mind, so wah-wah, I guess we're done. Again, I want you to get out of that mentality. That's why I had you personal journal. That's why I had you write all these ideas down. Instead, let's come up with some things you could say to maybe not change their mind because that's not the real goal here, The goal is to change their perception of you, because once they change their perception of you as the recruiter, then we can change their. Okay, so what are some things you could say? For example, here's what I might say. I might laugh along with it. I might joke and say, yeah, I know, they make it sound so easy. If it was so easy, we'd already have it done by now, wouldn't we? Huh, that's an interesting point, isn't it? If hiring was so easy, we'd already have the hire. All we would have to do is write down the fill out the form and get the bodies in, right? That's what the ads are promising, but what is reality? All you're doing is simply saying, hey, there might be some structural deficiencies in how you're seeing that problem. Maybe, and more likely, what's happening is the hiring manager just wants this to be taken care of, wants it to be over with. And so they're thrilled when someone says, I'm going to support your little fantasy of how easy this is. Great. Someone supports me. It must be true. And everybody loves to hear that they're right. What else could we say? You might say, hey, how about this? Let's try that. I'd love to do a test to see if those podcast ads are accurate. Let's post the job on that platform, and then let's do this other process and see side by side where our best candidates come from. Well, that is not what an order taker says. That is never what an order taker says. You have just, in a couple of sentences, accepted their understanding of the reality, suggested there might be an alternate approach, suggested a test that you can do to determine if their understanding of the world is true. And in so doing, you still got them to do what you wanted them to do. Wow, it's like a magic trick. Consultants really, the good ones, the really, really good ones, never make it feel like they're doing something. It always feels so subtle when they're changing your mind and changing your perspective. That is something you could be taking advantage of. Here's another one. Instead of asking in the intake, hey, how many years of experience should this person have? Pretty standard question. You've probably asked it a bajillion times. What if instead you ask, hey, what has this person done in their past to make them a perfect hire? That's a different reframing. You're breaking the box up. It's not years of experience, because let's be fair, if someone has invented something, who cares if they have 5 years experiences? They've invented things, and maybe invention is what this job needs and requires. That's what you're looking for. Get beyond the years of experience and think about, what would a perfect candidate look like? This is what if thinking. This is where consultants live. It's not accepting what's given. It's asking, how could we make this better? What would make this, what could we do to make this happen? What would be true? What would have to happen for this to be true? These are all higher level thoughts that I want all recruiters to adopt, because that's how you're going to change the company. Now, it's not just hiring managers who have put us in this box. It's technology. It's the processes. It's the systems that are endemic to recruiting that have really been built around the idea that all recruiters are order takers. Here's an example. Hire manager gives you the job, you put the job in the ATS, the jobs go out to the job boards, you wait, and 100 applicants show up. A couple days later, your hiring manager goes, so did we get any good applicants? And you say, well, not really. We've only gotten a handful that were worth talking to. I've done a quick screening call. Nobody really worth talking to. Hiring manager goes, we need more applicants. Well, you have 100. How many more do you need? You don't need applicants. They didn't look at the ATS. They don't see the bigger numbers. We don't bother reporting those things. That's details. And even if we do, it's not like they see those things. We need to help them understand that numbers of applicants is how ATSs think. It's how they measure their validity here, their value to the company. But that's not actually what's driving value to the hiring manager. We've all been kind of trained that the ATS is driving this process. And so consequently, we're thinking in terms of volume and quantity instead of quality of hire. We don't need 1 million people to apply. We just need 2, the one we say yes to and the one we said, oh, it was so close. That's what we really want. Anything beyond that is wasted time and effort. So what happens when the hiring manager says we need more applications? Well, they say, let's spend more money on ads, for example. And they put ads in places where lots of people are. And they get lots of applications because you put your ad in front of as many people as possible. Did you get quality candidates yet? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe they say, oh, we should probably rewrite the job posting to be more broad, to appeal to more people so we can get more people to apply. Is that actually going to solve the problem of getting a great candidate, or is it going to solve the problem that you don't have, which is we need more applicants? The technology and the processes have trained HR, have trained the hiring managers that more is better. But you and I, we know better. This is about effectiveness. They're chasing efficiency. We need to be chasing effectiveness. So how do you make that change? Well, you have to reinforce the idea that sheer numbers isn't going to help them. You need to say, do you really want 1,000 candidates with the assumption that there's going to be 5 candidates worth talking to? Or do you really just want 5 great candidates? Ask them that question. Ask them that question just like that. Because everybody thinks, ooh, 1,000 candidates, that must be great. I'm going to get some really amazing people. But the reality is, do they? What they really want isn't 5 candidates. What they want is someone who says yes, who's a perfect fit, who drives value, who they can easily see sitting in that role and creating value as soon as humanly possible. That's all they want. Everything else is ignored. But they still need to go through the process. The technology keeps pushing us into this order taker position where more candidates is better. And more candidates means dumbing down the process, pushing out more ads, making the job posting more broad, more bland to get more generic people. We're not writing the phone book here. We're trying to find that one perfect candidate. So we should be writing the job posting for that one perfect candidate. We should be writing an outreach message for that one perfect candidate. You don't want lots of people. You just want the one. The problem is we have trained people the wrong way. We've told them the bigger the haystack, the more needles, but that is not how needles work. Another way we get pigeonholed as order takers is by using the wrong language internally. Here's an example. How many of you measure time to fill? I'm guessing quite a few of you. It is, in my experience, the number one purely talent acquisition metric that we talk about the most. Right? There's other little metrics we could talk about, but time to fill is the thing that, one, is primarily on our shoulders. Two, only we care about. Three, has no connection to the rest of the business. And the more we talk about time to fill, we're effectively choosing to use our own arcane inside baseball knowledge and language. What we're saying is it only exists in this tiny, weird little bubble called recruiting. That's not what that is. And more to the point, it really doesn't connect how what we do is valuable to the company. It's just only we care about it. We are counting the angels on the head of a pin. Who cares? What's the value to the business? What's the value to the hire manager? They don't care about time to fill. What they care about is, did I get a great hire and did I get them in a timely manner? Is that faster? Partly, but it's really about quality. It's about establishing a process, about making the hiring manager understand that you can't just jump to the end and say, here's a body, do you want it? It's about making sure and vetting that person brings the quality they say they do. Understanding requirements. It's really connecting their work and the value they bring to the company. That's how you create value. The more you talk about time to fill, the more they think, that's recruiter speak, I don't need to worry about that. The more it puts you back in that order taker box. So here's what I want you to talk about instead. It's not about time to fill. If you need to get into a time conversation, and I understand that very often you do, it's time to value. What is the amount of time before that person drives value to the company? That breaks the model. That says it's not just about recruiting, it's about the company, how recruiting is serving the company. Now, I already hear what you're saying. You're saying, well, I only have an impact on part of that. Welcome to business. There is no one function that is completely owning a set of metrics that only they have influence over. Sales metrics are just as much about product and marketing as sales. Any team is a function of how it supports the larger goal. So if you're complaining, well, we can't, use those metrics because other things influence them. Yeah, welcome to business. Welcome. It's a party. Come on in. It's fine. We understand that. We can make that more clear and show how we are bringing value. Now, what you want to be saying is not that you brought value faster, but that about you were bringing value faster. Subtle difference. It's not about how quickly could you put a butt in a seat and how long before that butt turned into value to the company. It's about how you were helping speak to the world such that the valuable person showed up. They rose their hand. They said, I want to learn more. And you helped them understand what their value in the company could be, such that when they showed up and the hiring manager went, where have you been all my life? Which is what you always want, and they show up, thank goodness, and they understand, and they 2 weeks in, they go, well, why don't we change this thing to this thing? That would save us so much time and money. Bam, they just brought some value. It's a larger story. It requires a lot of conversations. It requires coordinations from multiple. And honestly, I don't actually care if you have a number. What I care most about is the language of the metric, because I know that order takers only care about what's happening in the world of recruiting. Consultants care about what's happening to the business. And anything that you talk about or show or say or put on a dashboard that is just for recruiting and recruiters, throw it away. No one cares except y'all. Again, said with love. Everything you say, and the more you change your language, the more people see, and you see you in a different light. Anything you say must be retooled and refactored to show how it creates value for the business. See a metric, a piece of language that is purely about recruiting. Go get yourself a big old highlighter, say no more, highlight the heck out of it, and stop doing it. Change the language, change how people perceive you. Now, I'm going to let you in on a little secret, and that's this. Your company, they want you to be a consultant so bad, so bad, so bad. They are so tired of having to deal with order takers because order takers only do what they're told. The order takers don't bring their own value. And when the order taker doesn't bring the value, I guess the hiring manager has to bring all the value on their own. And let's be fair, they're not equipped and they're not prepared and they're not set up. I know of a company that decided, you know what, recruiters are dumb. We're getting rid of all of them. We're going to let hiring managers be the recruiters. That worked out well. The company wants more value. You bring value not as an order taker, but as a consultant. Thus, ergo, the company wants this. The company's desperate for you to be a consultant. They want you to bring more value. Yes, it feels like on the day to day, they're just squeezing and squeezing and squeezing and hope you get small enough that as a cost center, you just poof out of existence. They can automate you away only because they don't see your value, only because you don't show the value you bring to the table in a clear way that they understand. You have value. You're bringing value. You just don't talk about it the right way. You're not selling that value very well to the rest of the company. Now, one of the things that I've kind of tried to not talk about so far, but is crucial here, is AI. Not as it's a thing that's scary, it's going to take your jobs kind of way, but more as it is a tool set that is functionally designed, perfectly designed to help you break free of this order taker role, to help you become a consultant, to help you be seen as a consultant. And we're not using it that way. So what I'm about to say is completely independent of your AI tool. I don't care which AI tool you use. If your company has one, if you decide to spend 20 bucks on your own, great, whatever. It's fine. Completely agnostic here. But if we're going to make this third of the 4 transformations true, we need to use every trick we can get our hands on. And AI is a fantastic tool to make this happen. But first off, we need to see AI's role. It's not here to replace you. It's here to free you from some garbage tasks that you don't want to do, the order-taking tasks. For example, once you have your intake strategy document, right? And you know what the role is. I mean, everybody knows what this role is you're going to do this strategy meeting for. Why don't you ask the AI, hey, go out in the world and find 10 jobs of this exact same title. Now, based on all that and everything you learn about this role, help me fill out this form for our company based on everything you know about our company. Now, it's going to draft something and it's going to be wrong some places, but it's going to be right a lot more than it's wrong. And if you walk into that strategy meeting, not with an empty form that you fill out like an order taker, because even if you're asking better push questions, you're still doing I ask a question, you answer the question, I write down your answer. That's still very order taker-esque. But if instead you start the meeting by saying, okay, so what I did is I did a competitive review of 10 companies who are also hiring for this role. And I said, based on that information and based on what our company generally offers, I started to fill out the intake strategy form. Let's go through it real quick. And I want you to tell me where it's wrong so we can make adjustments. What? Your hiring manager after they have a tiny little party in their head because this meeting is going to be way shorter than they thought it was going to be, is going to look at you like you're a flippin' genius. But you're not. You're just a consultant because that's what consultants do. They anticipate the questions, they anticipate the problems. Here's the deal. You've been through this intake process a bajillion times. You know what's going to go in that form. Pre-fill it out. Save the hiring manager time for better questions to say, what is different? Because look, I'm an employer brander. There is nothing more valuable to me in that moment than a hiring manager saying, okay, if that's what a standard product manager does, this is the way in which we're different. That to me is a big bowl of yum, yum, yum. I want all of that. That is a thing that shapes how I do my job. Understanding how this role is different from other roles, that's my sales pitch. That's what I'm going to build campaigns around. That is what I'm going to build content around. That's how I'm going to pitch it to candidates. Hey, you know how all these other roles do this? This one is different. That is gold, platinum even. That's what you want. But you can't get there if you're busy filling out the form. If you pre-fill it out and say, this is what is standard based on 10 competitors, again, not your data, it's just the world, you're a consultant, you're an expert, you're bringing something to the table other than listening for answers. And you're enabling the hiring manager to talk about the things they would never have gotten to in a standard intake meeting. That is a huge shift. It shows that you are far more than just an order taker, and it's happening in this microcosm of the intake strategy. Here's another AI trick to get you out of that order taker thing. Right now, most people and most recruiters use AI to generate as much spam as they possibly can. Hey, I need to write an outreach email for this kind of role. Help me write it so I can send it to 1,000 people. And that's why people hate recruiters. And that's why people hate spam. And that's why people hate going to LinkedIn and getting barraged by people who are sending them the same garbage in mail that they get from everybody else. What if we could use AI to write not 1,000 or 10,000 messages, but one killer perfect message? What if instead of just saying, how do I write a message that will appeal to as many people as possible? What if we instead said, I found someone who I think is fantastic, or better yet, in the intake, you ask the hiring manager, in a perfect world, who would you hire if money was no object, and let them point to the perfect person. You grab their LinkedIn profile and anything else you can find on that person and say, AI, how would you write a personalized, personal, heartfelt message to this person about this role? Feel free to be creative as possible. Enter. You are going to write a message that's going to sound maybe not quite like their mom wrote it to them, but certainly someone who understands what their world is like, who's familiar with what they do, how they speak, and they're going to write something interesting, engaging, compelling. Not 1,000 messages, one great outreach message for that one person. You're like, oh, that sounds like a lot of work. Yeah. And if you don't have to send 1,000 emails to get one response, it washes out. You can do this for 10 different candidates and get one response in less time than it took you to spam a lot of people to get the one response. And the one response you get will be way better. It will be from someone who is amazing, who is fantastic. That's what you're looking for. That is how we start to think about this, not as how do we just replicate things over and over again. That's how order takers think. But how do we use these tools to cut through the noise, to do something that no one else can? Talent leader, here's a fun trick. You have a feed of news stories that mention your company? You should. You should. Just in general, you should. It's always a good idea to see what people are saying about you. What if you took that feed and fed it into the AI and said, hey, based on the news and based on everything you know about our company, where do you think the next growth is going to happen? Help me anticipate company needs for hiring. Now, 50% of the time, you're going to get something that's garbage or completely wrong. And that's fine. But it forces you to think in bigger terms. It forces you to think like a consultant, to understand the needs of the business. And 50% of the time, you're going to say, it's interesting. They keep thinking in order to grow, we need to hire more salespeople. I need to keep that in the back of my mind. I might even say, go to sales leadership and say, hey, have there been conversations about growing the sales team? And how can I help make that happen? Are we building a brand new office? Are we simply just expanding our current offices? What do you think we should be doing? That is an unbelievably proactive approach. instead of waiting for someone to call you to a meeting and say, hey, we're hiring a full office in Southwest, wherever the heck, and we need you to staff it, and you got 2 weeks, which is how it usually happens. Instead, you're coming and saying, I'm anticipating what you're anticipating. Let's be partners. I can hang. I can think proactively. I can think strategically. I am a talent consultant. Let me show you how I can help. Suddenly, you as a leader have a very different relationship with the business. Okay, a lot of stuff. It's a lot of stuff. I told you, transformations don't happen easily. They take a lot of work. And I have really, when it comes down to it, just hit the surface. I've hit just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more you can be doing that everyone can be doing. And if you happen to go into your particular AI choice and ask them, hey, how can I turn my recruiting team into a set of consultants instead of a set of order takers? Ask me any questions you need to know about my company so that you can give a great set of answers. You will find all sorts of wonderful opportunities to really reinforce how great a set of consultants your team is. I want to leave you with this idea. If you think of AI and technology and all the other things coming down the pipe as the meteor we see flying towards us, understand that it's the order takers who are the dinosaurs. They are the ones who are going to get wiped out by this massive change. Nobody needs more efficient order takers. Companies don't want that. They can automate that stuff out. However, it's the consultants who are the ones left behind. They're the mammals and the other animals who survive, who manage to be adaptive and creative and figure how to evolve in a world that made the dinosaurs vanish. This change is coming, and it is your choice to help you and your team make that evolutionary choice. So stop waiting for permission to be better as a consultant, to be consultative. Start asking better questions, start asking bigger questions, proposing bolder solutions to the change that's going to help grow the company. Because that's what you are. You are a change catalyst. You're a growth catalyst. You are here to make the business better. You're not here to fill little widgets. You are here to grow the company. As I said, the company is desperately waiting for you to embrace this. Why keep them waiting? I'm James Ellis, and I hope you enjoyed this. But there's one more video left, and it's a doozy. I'll tell you that. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please thank SmartRecruiters for putting these together and bringing them to you. I suggested this project because I want these transformations to happen for myself, for you, and for every company and every job seeker in the world. The change we're making is not just for ourselves. It is to business and how businesses see our function. This is how we evolve and grow and become successful and thrive in the future. And I hope to see you in that future. See you in the next video.